All right, folks, happy Monday morning. Let's get this week started. How about with a little clip from David Schwartz pulling up in the Twitter spaces and sharing the truth about on-demand liquidity for the XRP community. Absolutely love to see it. I am a little butthurt though, David. I thought maybe he would come through for my Twitter space last night, but I guess he came through at, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I think, when they said that this space was taking place. So sometime in the middle of the night, huge shout to David Schwartz for pulling up for the XRP community. I'm about to play you guys a little clip from that Twitter space. 29,000 is the price of Bitcoin at about 7 a.m. here on the West Coast. 1827 for Ethereum, and XRP's at 61.38. So 61 cent XRP, market back down a little bit to start off the week. So we'll be watching that one, but let me play this clip right here. Huge shout out to 801 XRP for recording this one. And it looks like David pulled up in the space last night at 3 a.m. And he's talking ODL, XRP, Prisma, automated market makers, stablecoins. And we're talking to banks and large financial institutions to try to get them to launch some premium stablecoins to make that more practical. And he was talking about a US dollar stablecoin. And I found that so interesting just because we had the interview with Jay Anson from Palau just last week where we talked about the US dollar backed stablecoin, the Palau stablecoin that they're piloting right now on the XRP ledger. So yeah, absolutely love to see it. Let's roll this clip right here from David Schwartz. Huge shout out to 801 XRP Stewie for hosting this space last night and getting this clipped up for us. 801 XRP, appreciate you.
David, David, hi. I've got a burning question I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. We saw Exhibit F and Exhibit G in the court case, and it was about how the ODL was expensive in compared to other transactions that are out there in the current financial systems, and how Ripple incentivized the actual payments to make them cheaper. Has Ripple actually fixed the costings for the ODL transactions themselves now, or are they still incentivizing the customers?
So it depends which markets and which customers you're talking about. Some markets where some places incentives are still necessary as we work, pretty aggressively to drive costs down. Obviously, it's a huge priority for us to drive down the costs. But what we also do is we target markets that tend to be fairly inefficient. So for example, like you don't see us targeting the USD to euro market because it's super efficient. Like you would have to be, tiny fractions of a basis point of where the competition is. But you see us more in markets like USD to MXN, where those markets are less efficient, and so we don't have to be as economical to compete with them. But I think the problem is what happens when people compare the prices is they don't compare all-in prices. So for example, one of the big advantages of ODL is that you can keep one pile of USD or XRP for multiple corridors, and you don't have to balance, over weekends. And if you do a fair job of including things like the capital savings, then the economics look a lot better. But some of those economics only matter, like that advantage of the economics only matters for a customer that has multiple corridors. So it's also, to some extent, us targeting customers that have needs that it matches. So that's one of the reasons why we pivoted from banks. In the very early days, we thought the right targets for ODL were banks, and we pivoted to non-bank financial institutions and sort of payment services companies because they have a higher cost of capital. And so those capital savings, and of course the ability to perform transactions on weekends, 24/7, 365, those other benefits kick in. But the economics are complicated. So for example, in the US market, there's lots of liquidity between USD and XRP. And so you can make large transactions and the spreads are tight. Whereas like in Philippine pesos, there isn't as much sort of native liquidity. And so in some cases, like Ripple has to incentivize market making, which we can do by lending XRP. And so that's another interesting thing about the price. Like our cost to lend somebody XRP is zero. Our cost to have XRP sitting somewhere so a customer can get XRP instantly when they need it is zero. But you can't, when you calculate like the economics of ODL, do you include like our cost for those things, or do you include fair market cost for them? To some extent, like one secret weapon that Ripple has is we can keep XRP everywhere at literally zero cost. So if like a customer wants to buy XRP on demand, we can leave it ready for them at literally zero cost. We can pre-fund multiple places at literally zero cost. but it's not fair to count that as zero cost, in the economics. So the short version is the shorter version is that it's complicated, and the economics depend on how much value you assign to things like the cost of capital and the need for pre-funding.
Thank you. Can I ask one last question?
Sure.
In the court documents, you talk about an API called Ripple Prisma, and that was a way for the ODL to be able to split up payments into smaller chunks to get a better price action while running it on the ODL, if I remember rightly. Is that still in effect, or is that now part of the AMM?
So right now, ODL doesn't use any DEXs. That may well change. We've been investigating using DEX services for ODL, and that would include being able to trade against AMMs. That doesn't currently happen. Prisma can use DEX liquidity. Prisma can also use multiple exchange liquidity. And it can break large transactions into smaller transactions. It can aggregate them to sort of more intelligently take advantage of liquidity. So there are some markets where markets are thin, but to do a large transaction, if you spread it out over time, you take a little bit of increased risk of volatility, but you take a lower cost. So that's what Prisma does. We have started a major effort to integrate DEX use into ODL, but that does not happen currently.
Thank you, David.
I think one thing that will make that more practical, what we really, really need on the XRP ledger is a fantastic like US dollar stablecoin, European Euro stablecoin. If we had really good stablecoins in the major currencies, which we don't have yet, then using the DEX would be more practical. So that's also something that we're hoping will happen. We came very, very close to that. We had a deal that I thought was going to close, and then that was 2.5 years ago when the SEC filed suit against us, and so that kind of torpedoed that deal. So we'll see. But we're talking to banks and larger financial institutions about trying to get them to launch some premium stable coins to make that more practical.
So how about that, folks? And I just find it so interesting that one, now we do have the Plow stablecoin, which is US dollar backed. So we are getting a little test trial over there in Plow. The other thing to note is that it got announced this morning, Monday morning, that PayPal has just launched their new stablecoin, which they're basically, creating and rolling out to incentivize more people to, get friendly with digital assets. Something along those lines is what they said. So you have your PayPal US dollar stablecoin that just came out today, Plow US dollar backed stablecoin on the XRP ledger live. So we're starting to see how this works. But as he said, they had a partner that was about to close and create a quote-unquote premium stablecoin on the XRP ledger. That was 2 years ago, right before the SEC dropped that lawsuit on them. Now, the other thing to note, he said Euro stablecoin too. You also have that partnership with the Bank of Montenegro that I think we need to watch closely as well. And there's other, countries, France and Sweden, where ODL corridors have fired up as well. So we have connections, we have some roots, we have some infrastructure built out there. Now we're just waiting for that premium stablecoin to kind of come along and facilitate that role. Obviously, USDC's in there. There's a stablecoin war taking place right now. We were talking about this last night on the Spaces. So we're going to see who survives the stablecoin war. But nonetheless, I think David's noting that, folks want to dice this up a few different ways, and folks want to run with this as it's some sort of bad news or bad thing that Ripple's having to incentivize their partners to use ODL. Well, this is in corridors where they're already extremely inefficient, right? And so that makes sense. And as I've been saying for this whole time, this is what we want Ripple to be doing. Now, it's interesting to note that he said that they shifted the ODL focus away from banks to non-bank institutions, payment service providers. And that has been successful for them. They've gotten a lot of adoption and growth. But then you also have to wonder, well, then what are we doing with all these bank partnerships? Because we know you got them. They just said that they have 5 that are announced, 5 unannounced, and conversations with 20 central banks and governments. So there are still conversations happening with those banks. And like Monica Long, president of Ripple, just said last week, they're starting to fire back up the conversations with banks and institutions within the United States as well. And then I found it interesting, that US dollar to Mexican peso corridor that he talked about. Are we going to see partners like MoneyGram come back and start to use XRP now that we have clarity? Are we going to get any US bank, institution, payment service provider in the United States to come out and say that they're using ODL XRP this year? That's my prediction that we will. But we're all watching closely, and I just, I love the fact, and I said this last night too, this speaks volumes, the fact that Brad Garlinghouse, after the court case ruling came out from Judge Torres, before he went to any mainstream, before he went to any CNBC, he came to the people and he came to the XRP community first. And he did so by coming to a Twitter space. He came to a Twitter space after the ruling, before he went and did the media role. And you see something similar here with David. In the middle of the night, 3 a.m. Maybe David knows that that's when he won't get absolutely hounded by all of the Twitter guys, is if he shows up in the spaces at 3 a.m. in the morning. But he shows up and he answers questions for the people. And this is what you love to see from a project that many folks have criticized for, being a banker's coin, right? That's the initial FUD that everyone comes across when they first learn about XRP. But then you get to talking with these guys and listening to them, and they're just regular guys who are, doing their best to roll out a new financial system utilizing XRP. So love to hear the success. I think there are some other clips that I'm going to share with you guys as well in some other videos. So make sure that you've subscribed, hit that notification bell. And if you appreciate this update from David and the gang, we really do, please smash that thumbs up for me. And I will see you guys in the next one. Okay. Thank you. Let's have a fantastic week.